Hiring? Look, every business needs great people and a better way to find them. Something better than posting your job online and just praying for the right people to see it. ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter does not stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes can trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Wingo. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Wingo. ZipRecruiter.com/Wingo. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Adnan Varuk in for Trey today. We are Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Great to be back with the big fella. First time I've seen you since the Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Very cool, huh?
Have you found that, like, as I'm still texting, like, Eagles fans and stuff, like, hey, by the way, Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Like, it's, when does the shock of long delayed championship, when does it sit into reality? Meaning, the fact that Cubs won the World Series, like, still sometimes I go, oh yeah, the Cubs did win the World Series. Like, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, it is weird for me to answer that, you know, right. Even though
I say long-time Eagle.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nobody from the Eagles there that was there when I was there. So while I enjoy their success, I'm a little more disassociated from them than years ago. So, well, like I said, I've gotten to know some of the guys on that team, but I know guys on all the teams. So, but there is a special place in my heart for Philly. My wife, Chris, and I, we really enjoyed our years there.
Right.
Both Mike and Jake were born there, before I went down to Miami. So, and I do. I think it's a great sports town. We did. So I really dug it, certainly for the players, even though I was jealous because, you know, I never got to experience that, but very happy for the fans. And normally that's what you are, especially for a long-time city looking for a championship, that you're happy because while players come and go every few years, you know, you have decade-long fandom going on there. So you feel good that some of those fans, especially ones that have been following that team forever, finally got that victory.
Having lived there in Philly, you got that sense of how big the Eagles were.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's a great sports town. And listen, Philly's winning an 08 special. Dr. J and the Sixers 83. The Flyers, they packed the house. They love their hockey.
Absolutely right.
But Cliff, you know this, having gone to the parade. You always knew in Philly nothing was going to be bigger than the Eagles. Not only the drought, but football, blue collar, like Eagles are the number one team in town no matter what, right?
Absolutely, by far. I mean, Eagles are the talk of town no matter what. I mean, like
even the Rich Kotite years, even Ray Rhodes.
Yeah, Ray Rhodes.
Whoa, easy. It was my Rich Kotite years.
Ray Rhodes, Rich Kotite, Randall, Donovan, all those guys. B. West, T.O.
I think the big thing is the blue collar kind of approach that the fans really kind of appreciated, that lunch pail type of mentality that a lot of the players had there. So happy for them. Again, they said they were
700,000 at the parade.
Yeah, they said they were expecting a couple of million. It's 700,000. So I wasn't sure.
You're right. That's disappointing, Cliff, because the population is over 1 million, so they're expecting 2 million. They go 700,000.
Zero chance. There's only 700K people there. Zero chance. They had to be way more than that.
You're calling fake news on this.
100% fake news.
Wow, there you go. There you hear from Cliff. Fake news.
So we're trusting Cliff, who was there, in fairness.
The eye test. This is just the eye test.
Dan, do you agree with Cliff or versus verified media reports of how many people were there?
It had to be more than 700,000.
Anybody have a clicker working?
We'll figure it all out. Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We're going to talk plenty of Olympics. Julie Foudy is in Pyeongchang. Mike and I are all over the results so far. It's been a ton of fun to watch. We've been discussing also, tweet us, Golic and Wingo, what Winter Olympic sport you would most like to do and which one you think you'd be the most effective at. Because we seem to have found curling is really the only option in the second.
Well, I think that anybody could I'm not saying do it well, and people don't think we're slapping curling in the face here. We love curling. I love watching curling.
Yeah.
But if you show a list of all the Winter Olympic events and say, which one could you walk out of the door of your office today and be able to do best? It's going to be curling.
Right. Pairs free skate. You're not just
you may slip and fall a little bit, but you're going to do it better than maybe killing yourself on the luge or, God forbid, you ski jump. I mean, you start thinking about all the events, and man, they all really have to do with downhill on ice and snow with a whole lot of gravity yanking you down there and the possibility of serious injury.
I'm sorry, but as I was looking at you, I just pictured you ski jumping like at the 6'5".
Oh my God. It looks so cool, and I would love to do it, but I can't even imagine the splat that would go on at the end of that.
Yeah. More Olympic talk coming up at 8:30. All right, here's what's trending. New look Cavaliers went into Boston. Congrats to your boys. They beat the Celtics by 22 points. Cavs' first win against a team currently in the top 5 in the NBA since the season opener against the Celtics. The Cavaliers went from joint favorites with the Raptors to win the East at 9-5 to odds-on favorites to win the conference in 10-11. If you believe in statement wins, defining wins, here you go. You stomped all over the seas.
And there's so much of it to say, pull the reins a little bit. First game with all the new guys and how they're all going to interact with one another, and they looked great. They shot great. They shot 53% from three-point land.
Right.
I mean, 16-30, that's not going to last. We know that. Where the Celtics were trying to make it a three-point contest, they shot 38 times.
Right.
What was somewhat stunning. But they all looked good. And you know what? And I remember Colby Altman, the GM that looks like he's 10 years old, when Doris Burke was interviewing him. At one point, he finally said, I'd like to get back and watch this game. She kept asking him questions. I was like, dude, you got 4 quarters here. You can spend a couple of minutes. People are trying to tell you what a good job you're doing here.
No question.
And just the attitude of the players that left to where they are now. And what you have, 4 guys, 3 of them are 25, 1 is 31, but the 25-year-old still, hey, we're playing with LeBron James, the best player in the game for a team that's been to the title. I think there's that freshness, that newness. Where I think with the other group, it just got stale, in that locker room, and there wasn't a good mesh, and the Isaiah Thomas experiment was just horrible the way that worked out as well. So I do think there's that freshness, that newness. It'll settle in. They'll find their level, whatever it is. I do think because of the youth, a little more perimeter defense. Nance really the only one that by the rim as far as rim protecting. They're still not going to be a great defensive team, though. They some good defense here, even though it was Boston missing a ton of 3-pointers in this game. So I think they'll find their level. They'll get Kevin Love back at some point as well from the broken hand. I do think that they'll be the best team in the East. There's no way I can sit here and say they're going to be favored in the finals against Golden State, or can they give Golden State a better series? I have no idea about that. Golden State will be heavily favored if they were to get by Houston, as Rocket fans are probably yelling at me right now because of the way Houston's playing. But I do see them as the favorite in the East still.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, listen, Cleveland got younger. They feel like the chemistry has improved. Isaiah Thomas experiment. I mean, this guy's already been on 5 teams. It's crazy.
It's amazing,
imagine
isn't
he's
it?
going from a max contract to now off the bench for the Lakers. I know he had a 22-point game, but that's obviously got to be humbling for him. But credit to Kobe Altman for taking a shot. And listen, we're not going to win as presently constructed out of the Eastern Conference.
It is amazing. I mean, you come to the trade deadline and you trade 6 guys away. 6 guys.
Right.
You just say, okay, this isn't working. Well, you got a couple of guys. 6.
Right.
I mean, you just know that you're living on borrowed time with LeBron probably, so you got to do everything you possibly can to make it all count while he's here, and they certainly did.
Also, Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, PGA Tour pro Kevin Streelman won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am team title on Sunday, a 12-under final round, winning by 7 strokes. Fitzgerald is just the 7th professional athlete to win, the first since Dan Marino in 1988. Fitzgerald's still contemplating his future in the NFL. He said last week at the Super Bowl he would make a decision on his playing future in the next week or 2.
First, about the golf, I was surprised he was the first professional athlete since Dan in 1988. I was really
you would have thought somebody else, right?
Yeah, I was really, really shocked at that. But I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed our buddy Darius Rucker made the cut for the first time of that. Obviously, he's a golf freak, loves it. But he made the cut, so it was fun to watch that. But Larry, I mean, and then what he's going to do with his future. We obviously know if he retires 5 years later, he walks into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But what an athlete. He and Trey in Minneapolis did curling, and Larry was able to do it, where Trey said it was tougher than he thought because he's Trey. But Larry, that's going to be interesting if he's going to be done or not. Still productive, at this stage. Doesn't know who the quarterback really is going to be as the team is in flux a little bit there. So I'll be curious to know which direction he goes, and he'll let them know in time enough for free agency in the draft to let them make whatever moves they need to make, as he said. So he'll let them know in a little while.
And some hockey for you. Sidney Crosby scored his 400th career goal. Penguins game against the Blues yesterday. He scored .331 of the second period to tie the game at 1, reached the milestone. He also added an empty netter. Father was at the game. Crosby said it was special to have him there. Just in case you're curious, all-time leader in goals, of course, is Wayne Gretzky at 894. Gordie Howe second, 801. Then Jaromir Jagr at 765. Brett Hull, Marcel Dion, and away we go. But 400 goals, obviously great for Sid the Kid along with those Stanley Cups.
It really is, but you just think of the leaders you started to mention. He scored his 400th goal. 10th place is Mario Lemieux at 690.
Yeah, wow.
I mean,
still a
holy
long ways to go.
Yeah. It is incredible. incredible. You look at some of those names and what they've scored. And like you can't call him Sid the Kid anymore.
Exactly.
No, it's Sid the aging veteran.
Sid the wily vet.
Yeah, exactly.
400 goals. Congrats to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adnan Verk in for Trey today. We are Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Let's bring in one of our favorites, the great Dan Dakich, ESPN 1070 The Fan, 107.5 FM in Indianapolis. Always sensational on our college basketball coverage, no matter who he's with. Him and Jason Benetti, particularly great. We'll get to the hoops in a sec, Double D, but I want to ask you first, big news in Indianapolis. Frank Reich, now the head coach of Indy. Your reaction is?
My reaction is absolutely great. And I have no idea if he can coach or not, but you got the guy that was part of a staff that caused all kind of angst for Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. That's good enough for me. You got the Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator over the Super Bowl losing offensive coordinator. I'm good with it, Adnan. And he seems like an adult. Like, he just looks like an adult. And when I talk to a couple people, one guy, Rick Ventura, who was an offensive coordinator for 30 years, you know what, in the NFL, and he says, hey, he's got presence. My question is, why don't you go after him first? I mean, why was McDaniel so much the guy? But good for Indy. They got a great guy, at least seemingly a great guy. I have no idea. But they got the guy that beat the guy that caused a lot of angst for Indianapolis, Josh McDaniels, and I'm good with it, Adnan. I'm great with it.
Yeah, it's always interesting when offensive or defensive coordinators become head coaches for the first time and you get asked that question, how do you think they're going to do? I have no idea. We have no clue how they're going to do at all. I mean, you only know him as a coordinator. And it is interesting because with Josh McDaniels, he didn't have obviously the head coach in Denver didn't go all that well for him. And you're the offensive coordinator for Tom Brady, so maybe it gets skewed a little bit. I'm curious, Dan, what were your thoughts? I mean, we were a press conference away from it being Josh McDaniels. As we were leading up to that and everybody there thought it was going to be Josh McDaniels, what was everybody's thought about him?
Well, my thought was I was great with that, too. And because here's why, Mike. And I'm with you. I said, and I've said this on numerous radio shows, anybody that you hired this year is a guess, right? Like when the Colts hired Tony Dungy, Mike, you kind of knew what you were getting. This is going way back. All right, this year, Nagy, the guy going to Chicago, you don't know. McDaniels coming to Indianapolis, you don't know. You can go on history and say it's not going to work. You can go on, well, that's 10 years ago and say it is going to work. But, Mike, it's a guess. Right, it's a guess. The guy down in Arizona, it's a guess. There was no, hey, this is really good because of past history. So my thing with McDaniels was easy. Although I thought he had a very punchable face, I liked the fact that he had been a head coach. I liked that he had been a head coach. I can't criticize him for leaving and not coming to Indy because I did the same thing to West Virginia in 2002. I took the job for 5 days, then I went back to Bowling Green. But I was good with it. I want an offensive guy with head coaching experience. But I said it every day. Whoever you get here, whatever team gets, whatever guy, it's just a guess. It is not like bringing in Polian and Dungy back in the day who had proven themselves. I actually thought that Jack Del Rio wouldn't have been a bad choice because, let's face it, Mike, 2 years ago, if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt, Jack Del Rio may have been in the Super Bowl. They had as good a team, maybe the best team in the AFC. So it's a guess, but like I said, Mike, I just like the fact that the guy that turned down Indianapolis got beat by the guy that we ultimately got. That's the only thing I got to go on.
Doc, you've always got your ear to the grindstone. What have you heard about Luck's shoulder? What are the odds we get back to seeing this guy being the stud that he once was?
Hey, I've said this the night of the McGregor-Holyfield fight. The McGregor-Mayweather fight. I got told by a guy that he would not play all year. All right, he didn't play all year. The same guy also told me, don't be surprised if he doesn't play next year. Now, I'm not sticking to that. I'm just telling you that the guy was right. Only guy around here that said that Luck was not going to play last year. And he turned out to be right when everybody was saying around here, week 5, week 3, week 4, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going this route. I think Andrew Luck's going to play. Whatever surgery they said he had, I had the same thing. My wife had the same thing, but worse. I mean, and I'm not an elite athlete. I'm just telling you, what the surgery they said we had, and I can't imagine you can't play after having that. Now, maybe he had a different surgery. Maybe they lied to us. I don't know. I'm just going by what they said. I got to believe Luck's going to play, but in the back of my mind, I go to the guy that the night of the Mayweather fight told me he will not play in 2017. He didn't, and told me don't be surprised if he doesn't play the next year. So I think he plays, but who knows?
Well, the obvious question, since you had that surgery as well, could you be the quarterback this year if need be?
Hey, they tightened it up. There's a lot of Nolan Ryan in this wing. I mean, I said, give me Nolan Ryan, not Tommy John, baby. Let's get the fountain of youth going. Hey, I'm bald, I'm fat, everything is gone, but this right arm is nice from that surgery. It's not bad, Mike.
The always self-deprecating Dan Dakich. Yeah.
So now let's look at the past the Colts. We saw that the committee came out with their top 16. Again, talking points, really, kind of like in college football, where they give you their top 25 midway through the season and really get that first four to see where it's going to go. Your thoughts on, I guess, overall on the fact that we're getting that top 16 now?
Useless. I mean, Mike, it's just useless. Let's be honest, Mike. I mean, Mike, you say a lot of things. I watch you guys every morning, and you and I think a lot alike. Like, come on. I mean, there's a lot of game left. My son's at Ohio State, and they're in the top 16. Called me last night. He goes, Dad, why do they do this? I go, Andrew, I don't know. He goes, there's a lot of game left. We got 2 games this week on the road. The whole thing changes. So that's my opinion of it, Mike. I think it gets people talking about college basketball, which is cool. But let's be honest, man. College basketball, I was talking to Frank Martin at South Carolina. They beat Kentucky, came back from like 14 at home, beat Kentucky. So that's on a Saturday. I talked to him the next Monday, 8 days later, and he's the most miserable human being alive because he lost 2 games at home during the week. That's just college hoops. Virginia, Villanova, Purdue, Xavier, all good by me. I'm going to be in Auburn on Wednesday with PJ doing the crossover for Kentucky at Auburn. We'll see how that goes. I like that Ohio State's in there because I'm a definite, absolute homer. I think Ohio State should be the number 1 seed in the entire tournament, but that's just me being a homer whose son is on the team. Michigan State's been fascinating. I think they're playing as well as anybody. Cincinnati, nobody even watches because, let's face it, it's Cincinnati. Duke, everybody watches. And Duke could lose 17 games in a row, and they'll be a number 1 seed. So you know how it goes. It doesn't matter to me right now. It matters to fans. It gets people talking. But I know I'm just using Ohio State. A team like Ohio State's got to go on the road twice this week. As we sit here on a week from today, if we're talking, they might be number 2 in the country. They might be out of the whole thing. So that's the way college hoops goes.
Dan Dakich hosts the podcast Courtside along with Seth Greenberg. Listen weekly on the ESPN app and Apple Podcasts. Double D, it'll be me, Seth, and Fonz, our producer Stephen Oling, Wednesday night. So we'll be in studio for the crossover. So I'm going to be listening to everything you're saying. You're calling a game with PJ Carlissimo. Who's doing play-by-play?
Adnan Virk gets to sit in between 2 of the worst voices in TV. PJ's got that East Coast gruff. I've got the nonsensical Gary Indiana, D's Dem and Dozers. So it's not going to be good. And, by the way, I had an argument with somebody that tried to tell me, Dave Fleming, the play-by-play guy, please the best, tried to tell me that Hail Caesar wasn't the worst movie in the history of the world, and I told him he's out of his mind. It's the worst movie ever made.
Is that the one with George Clooney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coen Brothers.
I never saw it.
Dan saw it, and then he texted, and then I was on his radio show, and he goes, seriously, is this the worst movie ever made? And we put it up there with Caddyshack 2 among the all-time worst.
Yeah.
But, Double D, have you seen The Shape of Water yet?
No.
Okay.
Well, no.
I thought it was great. I don't think you'll like it, but Golick has a hot take. It's up for 13 Oscar nominations.
Dan, if you and what you said, and I agree with you and I are kind of alike, don't go see it. It's up for 13. I don't know who's on this committee. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm waiting for the fish man to do the acceptance speech. It's just a joke.
Lee Ross might be into it, Dan. Mute woman, fish man, romantic film set in the 1940s. It's beautiful.
It's horrific.
It's beautifully made. What have you seen?
Dan, you know I love you, but but I swear to God, after 700 years of listening to Golick in the morning, and being basically Golick's age, I defer to Golick on almost all things. I consider myself the commissioner of all things, but I consider Golick to be the de facto vice commissioner of all things because when he speaks, I have a tendency to listen. I do.
Okay.
And I'm not going to that movie. I'm not renting that movie. I'm not watching that movie.
Next time
you couldn't pay me to go to that movie.
Next time you need to discipline your kid, you make him watch that movie.
Andrew Dakich goes into The Shape of Water with his Ohio State teammates. Listen, what's the last movie you saw, Dan? Remember, I steered you right, Wizard of Lies. You liked the Robert De Niro, Bernie Madoff movie. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
That was really good. Lee and I went to a movie, and I hate to say this, but I can't remember what it was. But no, I cried 3 times. No, I cried
Lady
3
Bird.
times. What's that movie?
Lady Bird.
No, Wonder. Is it Wonder?
Oh, Wonder. Right. Julia Roberts. Yes.
Oh, okay. You cried 3 times.
I
like that.
Hey, Mike, my wife, I had a bit of a cold. She goes, "Why are you sniffling? Quit sniffling." I go, "I'm crying here."
Oh, that is awesome.
She didn't think you'd show that kind of emotion.
Wow.
Dan Dakich.
Thanks, Dan.
ESPN 1070 The Fan, 107.5 FM in Indianapolis. Shout out to producer Kyle, the entire crew. Enjoy Frank Reich, and can't wait for the game Wednesday. You, PJ, and Adam Amin. Going to be a blast.
Thanks, Dan.
I can't wait. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Right. I'm catching a lot. There's a ton of tweets about Shape of Water and people saying it's basically just kind of an erotic version of Splash. At least in Splash, I laughed. Okay, it was a comedy.
Right.
It was a rom-com. Okay,
right.
It was so ridiculously could never happen. Which I know, I get it. I can lose my mind in it. That you could just sit back and laugh a little bit. Shape of Water never made you laugh.
No, it's not intended to be comedy.
It made me laugh and for stupidity more than anything else.
Guillermo del Toro, the director, said, because you're asking who would greenlight this, who would make this film? He said the way he sold it to the studio was, it's Beauty and the Beast if the Beast never changed. If you're the studio chief,
don't compare that to Beauty and the Beast.
You
one of
love
the
Beauty and the Beast,
of
though,
all
right?
time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What's the director's name?
Guillermo del Toro.
So del Toro, I imagine at one point he had to go, cut! What the hell are we doing? Why are we doing this movie? Cut!
It's art. It's art.
It's art.
It's art.
It's art. Okay.
Speaking of artistry, coming up next, we'll head to Pyeongchang.
Pyeongchang.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. We're going to talk to a former Olympic athlete.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Golick Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
Yay, Germany.
I'm really fired up for Germany, because listen, I love the Germans Winter Olympics. Of course, Canada always does so well at the Winter Olympics, which is why I'm so invested.
I know you are. I was happy to see the German loser kind of lose it on his last run there.
Hey, loser.
Keep our, that was a loser.
Locke was his name.
What was his name?
Locke. L-O-C-H.
Locke. Okay, because it got our guy the silver instead of the bronze.
Masder, first ever American men's going to medal in the luge.
That was very cool.
What I always love is the countries that are dominant in the event, meaning Germans are always great at luge.
Right.
Norway great at ski jumping. Canada great at figure skating. So whenever there's an upset, you go, this is momentous for these countries, right?
I think one of the most amazing things I heard, I was really into the biathlon. I really dug that, where they're doing the cross-country skiing and the shooting. Mm-hmm. And they said in Germany that when they televise those, during the year, they get like 5 million viewers to watch that. It's incredible.
It's gigantic.
It's very cool.
Like, I'd love to find a comparison of like an American winning a luge medal. What is that like? Would that be a German, like it's Dirk Nowitzki winning an NBA championship? But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's bring in Julie Foudy, two-time FIFA Women's World Cup champion, Olympic gold medalist, and covering her 6th Olympics. Julie, thanks so much for joining us. We'll start with Red Gerard, 17-year-old, originally from Ohio, first gold for USA at the Games. Have you had a chance to talk to him? How crazy was that Red was able to deliver with a gold?
Well, the best part about Red Gerard is we actually met up with him before the Olympics, and I was like, hey, what's it going to be like to go to your first Olympics? He's like, I don't really think about it. It's day to day, And I was like, really? You never think about it? He's like, no, really, I don't. I'm like, the life of a 17-year-old, but he's got that snowboarder's mentality of, I just live day to day, man, and it's great to be here. I just want to enjoy the powder. But it's been fun to see the enthusiasm since he's been here. He said, of course, he crashed on his first 2 runs, and he said, I'm standing at the top of that hill for my last run, and I know I got to land it here. And all of a sudden, all that pressure started to filter in. And he's got this huge family, crazy family. 18, I think, in his family are here celebrating with him. So that was neat to see him be able to pull that off yesterday.
Yeah. I got to imagine you have to have a lot of questions ready for a 17-year-old, just not really sure what direction.
Yeah, cool.
That is cool, dude. Yeah, all good. See what my family's all doing. They're all slamming beers out there watching me win. It was awesome. So if we're going to start to make a medal run here, Julie, where is it going to be?
Well, we saw Jamie Anderson, of course, today, grab the second medal. And then, of course, if the wind actually cooperates in the weather, then I think you're going to see some, in skiing as well. And Michaela Schifrin starting on Wednesday. And here's a skier in Michaela Schifrin that could pull in seriously 3 Olympic gold medals in this Olympics alone. I mean, she's that good. She's qualified for the 5 different events, her first 2 events, and I think actually the weather helps her because her first event now will be the Wednesday slalom, which is her best event. So if she gets a gold in that, and then she continues on Thursday to the giant slalom, which is also another really good event of hers, and she's probably also going to race the combined. So I think you're going to start to see some golds flying in on the Alpine ski course.
Michaela Schifrin, obviously, as you mentioned, Julie, an absolute stud. How about Lindsey Vonn? In her last Olympics, enters the game as the most decorated female skier in history. What is her approach? What's a realistic expectation for Lindsey Vonn?
Well, I think Lindsey Vonn has been gearing for 8 years for this because we know, of course, that she was injured going into Sochi. And the thing about Lindsey Vonn is she's known as the all-time greatest skier. So many consider her to be that. But she only has, and only is relative, of course, a gold and a bronze at the Olympics, she'll say, to show for it. And so in her 4th Olympics, I think she's anxious to say, listen, I'm going to show why I'm the best, and I'm actually going to do it in Olympics. And given, what she's been through with her injuries and the setbacks and the crashes, I mean, you just go through the list of injuries, for her, and really not knowing if she was going to be able to qualify for this Olympics, and then this turnaround and this late surge, and now she's at the top of her game, which is exactly where she wants to be, skiing so well going into this Olympics.
Julie Foudy joining us, inducted in the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 2007, covering her 6th Olympics. As you're outside at these events, it looks like just when I was standing outside Minneapolis for the Super Bowl, as far as how cold it is. But how much is it really affecting? We know the wind is, but the cold affecting some of these events.
Oh, I know I am a California kid. You heard that grunt. And I am a bit soft, self-admittedly. But it is biting. And it's the wind. It's just howling all the time. And so you can see today, Jamie Anderson was talking after she won gold, how there was a debate amongst some of the riders on, should we be doing this? And is it even safe to be doing this? And it's a bit of a lottery whether you got the wind to die down on your run or not. And they ended up going forward with it. But there was a lot of actually discontent about that because they thought it was actually unsafe to do that. So it definitely, we've seen what it's done with men's downhill got delayed until Thursday as well. Giant slalom today for the women. So it's affecting it. But this is the Winter Olympics, right? They're used to these conditions is what they say. But still, to see 50-mile-per-hour gusts of wind, it's a bit biting. And when you're standing on that hill, it gets chilly, especially for a summer Olympic athlete, which is why I know I never would have lasted with the Winter Olympics.
They're very self-deprecating, Julie Foudy. You would crush no matter what, Julie. We all know that.
Oh yeah, I would crush the half pipe.
The good news is the figure skating was indoors. I was locked in. Great to see Mirai Nagasu nailing that triple axel was so great, and the U.S. getting the bronze. Canada's so great that they get the gold. Tessa Virtue, Scott Moore, you can make a case. Them in the ice dance is as good as any athletes in their discipline, right? So good.
Yeah, and Nagasu, I mean, there's another great story because here's a woman, and the first American woman, as you mentioned, to nail that triple axel in the Olympics. But she actually finished third in nationals before Sochi, doesn't get selected onto that Olympic team, even though she'd been in Vancouver at the prior Olympics. And so she had to wait 8 years to get back to this moment. And I was actually talking with her before the Olympics as well. And she was great because she said, listen, I knew I had to do something different this time around. And the difference is I wasn't afraid to do something different. So she had been trying for that triple axel for a while. And she said, I've got to do something bold, take a risk for me to separate from the pack. And that's exactly what she did today to help the team get to the bronze.
Julie Foudy joining us again, Olympic gold medalist of her own. We were talking about kind of crossing over into other sports. So, and the U.S. women's hockey team. Now, I know they won back in '98, and then Canada won the next 4 years. I know you're happy about that, Adnan. But you were learning to play a little hockey. How did that go?
Oh, yes. I think I'm going to be a natural at that one as well. I'm afraid you might have some video on that if you're actually talking about
this. All right. Look at Julie ready to rock.
Dang it. I actually hung out and, with the women prior to the Olympics, and Hillary Knight was like, hey, do you want me to teach you how to do a slap shot? And I was like, yes, I would love to. And so she's teaching me, and I'm all into it, and I'm lined up, and I'm locked in, and I'm thinking, I am just going to nail this upper corner. And literally, and you do hit the ice before to torque your hockey stick. And I was into it, and boom, laid out straight onto the ice, flat on my face. And the best part about it is they almost fell from laughing at me. So, but I actually got to see them in their first game against Finland. And that story, 20 years, 1998, as you mentioned, was the last time they've won an Olympic gold medal. And Canada has won the 4 since. And so all they talk about with this team, and especially after in Sochi, they were up by 2 goals and they go into overtime, lose it, this heart-wrenching loss. They're ready, I think, to get that gold.
It was an epic comeback by Canada, and you're right. Canada-USA women's hockey, as good a rivalry as you'll see at the Olympics. Julie Foudy, sensational work. Thanks so much.
And we got to ask you one more thing, Julie, before you go. We have said that you were an athlete, I was an athlete, Adnan is Adnan. That
CFL.
that we could all do. We could probably, if we had to pick an event to do that without getting hurt initially, we could probably all do curling. So taking that out of it, what event, if you trained for a bit, you would be able to do in the Winter Olympics?
Cross country skiing.
Yeah.
I did not biathlon. I've never picked up a gun. But I did have a good engine, I considered, in soccer. So I feel like with cross country, isn't that how Tonga, our favorite guy from Tonga got into the Winter Olympics? As everyone goes through cross country. I'm going through cross country.
That's a good call. Karate in the Summer Olympics and cross country in the Winter Olympics, oiled up in both Olympics. So it worked out okay.
I certainly will not be doing that half pipe. That is just nuts when you see the steepness of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd have to do a half pipe before I did the half pipe if I was going to do anything like that.
Pre-game half pipe. Thanks so much, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
All right, you guys.
See ya.
Adnan Burke in for Troy Wingo today. We are Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to this tweet from Logan. Of course, you can tweet us at Golic and Wingo. At Adnan ESPN, Golic ESPN. I ski jump for 16 years. I'm confident we can get Adnan on the jump with the U.S. and or Canadian national teams.
We're trying to say again, outside of curling, which event would you want to do? And you want to do ski jumping?
I think it would be phenomenal. Like, I cannot get enough of it.
Let me ask you,
mesmerized.
See,
by
here's always the amazing thing. It's like the X Games with a lot of jumps they do.
Yeah.
Do you ski jump into like a pit of the soft thing to start out in?
Gelatinous substance.
It better be something. It better be something early on to practice in, right?
Apparently in Norway, Mike, they start them like 4 and 5. Like, all right, like obviously the equivalent of a bunny hill with skiing.
Right.
But it's ingrained into society. Like they take so much pride in the ski
awesome.
jumping. It is.
That's awesome.
And I love. What's great about these announcers is they are the experts in their discipline.
Yeah, they are.
So much like if I sat down with you and you showed me defensive lines and structures, etc. When they're breaking down ski jumping technique, they're like, look at the head, look at the curvature. Like,
I love
awesome.
it. The explanation of the moguls last night of their feet, their ankles not breaking, not literally breaking, but the luge and hitting like curves 9 through 12 and what they need to. It really is for something that I love to watch. But hearing a pro kind of break it down on what you're actually looking for, I would want to be able to do downhill. They're nuts. That stuff to
Do you
me,
ski?
no.
Okay, I'm scared.
No, I when we first moved here, we skied for a very short time. The boys snowboarded.
Right.
Okay, and me and Chris skied, and I don't think we got past I might have tried a hill one time. Chris did the bunny hill. I hated it. I mean, well, because you start skiing like as an adult, and we didn't put a ton of time into it, because then the boys started doing a lot of sports, and that kind of went by the wayside.
I got you.
So we only went a couple of times. I fell.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Awkward. It's
oh
uncomfortable.
my
It's
God,
cold,
no.
obviously.
So seeing what these men and women do,
right,
going 60-some miles an hour. I mean, it's ridiculous what they're doing.
It's amazing, especially because when you're trying to beat the clock, that feeling, when you see the downhill skier go that, and we're going to see it Thursday, when they go that last turn and you're trying to beat the clock, it's amazing. That rush of adrenaline, just watching it, much less doing it.
Love it. Just the thrill factor alone of what they're going through, and just how they just so naturally just throw themselves down. There's something
Speaking
else.
of thrill factor, another one I haven't watched a little bit, short track speed skating is great.
I love that. I saw the women's, I think it was 3,000 meter relay. That's even crazier. Because the guy did, a great explanation of watch the outside, but the inside, they're constantly moving to move in and go in into their turn in the relay is really, really choreographed well.
You get a good chance of a wipeout every time, which is amazing.
Without question. How cool.
Awesome.
I mean, and how bad is it in some of these sports that you're kind of waiting for that? You don't want to see anybody get hurt,
right?
But you're kind of waiting. Are you waiting for that skier to go down or that loser to flip? I mean,
let's be honest.
But at 80 miles an hour, man, you really don't want to see the loser flip over. That's just not going to end well.
It's amazing. Winter Olympic event you could compete in. Tweet us at Golik and Wingo and let us know. Coming up top of the hour, Amin El-Hassan will be talking all things NBA, including that Cavaliers game against the Celtics. But also last night, Paul Pierce jersey retirement ceremony, which just ended.
Yeah. Wow.
Unbelievable how long it was after the game.
A while. Wow.
Here he was discussing the city in which he played for much of his career.
It wasn't just like any relationship. If you're going to last a long time, you got to get through the rocky moments. It's going to be ups and downs, and we definitely had our rocky moments. And eventually we sought them out, and we ended up with a championship. But you guys, the fans, you guys were behind me like none other. And I tell this, when guys come to play here and they go somewhere else, they're like, no fans are like Boston. There's no fans like Boston. There's no organization. There's no organization. And I see many players, there's no organization. This is a first-class organization.
I tell you what, if you haven't seen the video, love the jacket. Fits well, the parquet floor jacket. It's fantastic.
And how about Kevin Garnett not dressing up, going with a hoodie? Listen, I don't like to wear a tie either.
Yeah.
Blazer, Mike, jeans.
Went with the hoodie,
button down,
Interesting look. Hey, listen, it was a great night for him. Obviously well-deserved. I do have to say, when I heard Robert Parrish say that Paul Pierce is the greatest offensive Celtic, I thought,
Larry
okay,
Bird. I mean, it's an absurd comment.
I mean, Robert Parrish, listen, obviously the guy was a stud there, and I get he was, but
the Chief played with Bird. Would he not realize what Bird did all this years?
I know, but
I get Pierce was underrated, perhaps. People don't appreciate 2008 enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, come on.
But to go that far, I thought that was a little much, but certainly his opinion. But a great night for Pierce, again, waiting till after the game, and it was a blowout game. So people were going to wait anyway. They just unfortunately had nothing to watch to wait for this the ceremony, which did take a little bit of time.
And where are you at with that? Wouldn't you want to? I mean, I guess if it's a long ceremony,
I was surprised it was at the end.
Right, you do it before,
or before at halftime.
Right,
you show a bunch of videos all the time at halftime, do the ceremony, and then boom, you go back. I don't know.
I'm with you. If you want a quick version, you obviously go to halftime. If before the game, fine. If it's elongated, but it's tough. Amin El-Hassan is going to give us the full scoop on all of that. But also, I'm with you on Pierce. Listen. I just think Parrish was such an absurd comment, because then that takes away from the moment. Yeah. Rather than admiring Pierce's exploits, you're going, seriously, what's Robert Parrish thinking?
Yeah.
Regardless, a great night for the truth. Congrats to him. Coming up next, we'll talk more not only about the Boston Celtics, what happened to them against Cleveland Cavaliers, but how the Cavs came together so quickly. Amin El-Hassan's front office experience, he can break down exactly how they transformed their team. Plus, my guy has seen Black Panther already, so we'll talk a little Black Panther coming up in minutes. Adnan working for Trey Wingo. It's Golik and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2.